All right, well, we're ready to go here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, April 14th to order. Before we start, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, represented today by the Kasepsum and Songhees nations, whose stewardship of these lands continue to this date. Approval of the agenda. I do have one amendment. We circulated it this afternoon to the agenda. It's a labor relations issue that arose this morning and requires council direction today. So I'm just going to, it has to be dealt with in camera. So I'm going to add it as item 9.1. It's just one item. I will seek a motion to close the meeting to the public after completion of business under the regular council meeting. That's after section 8. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt today's council agenda as amended and receipt of the near and long-term agendas, please. Thank you very much. Councilor Grove and Councilor Olson. Right? Okay. Any opposed? Seeing none, I'll move on. I have no mayor's message this week. That's next week for the next one, but not a message this week. Item 4, which is the adoption and receipt of the minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the adoption and receipt of the minutes under section 4.1. Thank you very much. Same too. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Public participation. We only had one written submission that was received after the agenda publication, and it will be appended to the agenda for tomorrow. And it has to do with an idea for the Colwood Ideas Fair on May 10th of this year. On that note, I will welcome anyone from the public. I don't see anyone from the public. I'll call anyone from the public. I don't think anyone is registered electronically, correct? Right, okay. And seeing none, I shall move on. Sorry. Oh, yes. We have 2 absentee councillors today. Councillor Ward, who is away, and Councillor Jordison, who is ill. But we have quorum. Delegations. The first item is Maxwell Harrison, Senior Associate, Expedition Management Consulting Limited. And I understand he's going to be doing a presentation on the West Shore Parks Recreations Facilities Master Plan. I think he's joining us electronically.
Greetings. Can you see and hear me okay? Quick sound check there again. Hello?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear, Maxwell.
Oh, you do? Okay, very good. Well, yes, thank you for the opportunity to receive this presentation about the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society's Facilities Master Plan. I see the slides have been pulled up there. Thank you for that. Will you be making them full screen or just rolling through that way? Perfect. Great. Can we advance the slides, please? And once more. Very good. Thank you. Yes, to introduce myself, I'm a senior associate with Expedition Management Consulting, and we are a private company that was hired by the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society through a competitive request for proposal process to help them develop their facility master plan. And we're a team of recreation, parks, culture, and tourism development specialists. So quite a multidisciplinary team. We've got a lot of experience completing these types of master plans in communities all across Canada, including on Vancouver Island. So very comfortable with the subject matter. Justin Russo there on the bottom left is our managing director for the company. Then our core team here is myself, along with Cassandra and Lisa. And we've also partnered with a landscape architecture firm that is based on Vancouver Island. That's Lanark. And Vanessa Walton there in the bottom right is the main partner contact that's working with us on this project. Next slide, please. So the overall deliverable that we're aiming to achieve here is a facilities master plan that will provide guidance to the society in making decisions that best meet the recreation and sport needs of all the communities in the West Shore. So kind of the vision for this plan is it's really going to be their playbook over the next 2 decades in terms of what indoor recreation and sport facilities may need to be developed, what types of programs would fill those facilities to best meet community needs. Next slide, please. So in terms of study area, that includes the 5 partner municipalities that support the society. So that's Highlands, View Royal, Langford, Colwood, and Metchosin. Next slide, please. We have a 5-phase process that we're implementing to develop the master plan. We've just recently concluded phase 2, which was a community engagement process. And the next few slides here will speak to some of the activities that were included in that. And now we've transitioned to phase 3, which is our analysis and priority identification and setting phase. Then we'll be moving into phase 4, where a draft master plan will be developed, and then there will be an opportunity for the society to provide feedback on the draft. We would welcome feedback from councils of each of the municipal partners to provide feedback, and there will also be an opportunity for members of the public and user groups and residents to provide feedback on that draft master plan. And then we'll be in a position to consider that feedback and develop a final plan in phase 5. Next slide, please. So before embarking on a project such as this that involves community engagement, it's really important to identify what level of engagement we're seeking. And at the beginning of this project, in consultation with the client, which is the society here, we landed at the involved level, which is located in the middle of the continuum from the International Association of Public Participation's spectrum of public participation. And so what does that mean? It's really summarized in these 3 bullets here. Our overarching goal through the engagement is to make sure we're working directly with the community to ensure that their concerns and aspirations are considered. And our promise through this process is that the input we receive is going to be directly reflected in the report. We want to make sure we're authentically representing what was said, and authentically and accurately representing what was said, and really honoring that input that the community shared with us. But that isn't to say that everything that gets requested is necessarily going to be included in the plan or be a top priority in the plan. It's really important to separate the wants from the needs. And then also, at the end of the day, decision-making responsibility in terms of what does get built, what doesn't get built, how fast the plan is implemented. That ultimately rests with the society and its municipal partners. Next slide, please. So there have been a host of input opportunities for the community to let us know what their needs are. There was an online resident survey that ran for a month from mid-February to mid-March. There's also a community group survey that had questions specifically for groups that use indoor and outdoor recreation and sport facilities in the West Shore. We also hosted digital input workshops for members of the public and user groups. We held in-person engagement sessions with youth in the community as well as senior population. And we also had members of our consulting team tour throughout the West Shore. We hosted an in-person engagement station in each of the community. We made sure we did that in March. And next slide. And some additional input opportunities here. We invited every council of the municipal partners to provide input towards the facilities master plan. We had an input workshop with the society's board. We've been seeking to engage First Nation partners in discussions to collect their input towards the plan, understand the recreation and sport needs of their communities. And we've also been completing interviews with key partners and stakeholders and interest groups. And then we were also pleased to offer an open offer for engagement. So anyone who couldn't provide input through any of the other opportunities was welcome and invited to reach out directly to our consulting team We would work with them to find another way to collect their input. We want to make sure there was no barriers to participation through this engagement process. Next slide, please. So community engagement, of course, is a really important input towards this facilities master plan, but it isn't the only input that we'll be considering. There's a whole host of other research and analysis activities that our team over here will be working on, including an in-person tour of recreation and sport facilities in the West Shore. Myself and Justin participated in that in March, as well as Vanessa. It was a great tour. The society really laid out the welcome mat for us, as well as representatives of the municipal partners, and it was great opportunity to talk with staff, talk with people who are visiting the facilities, who are operating the facilities, and understand what the needs are, what the capacities are. It was really helpful. We'll also be looking at research and data and information that the society can share with us in terms of how well their facilities are being used, where might there be capacity, or where is there really no capacity, which from what we've seen so far seems to be more of that being the case. We'll be looking at the inventory of facilities in the West Shore, identifying if there's any gaps that we can see, taking a look at the programs that are being run and what level of demand there is for those, and how that might need to, or how we suggest it. The society might want to change those moving forward, or make adjustments or enhancements, improvements. We'll be looking at how recreation and sport services are delivered across the West Shore, and that'll be a key input towards this facilities master plan, as well as looking at the society itself as an organization. Are they well positioned to continue delivering services moving forward? And what might they need to continue to deliver at a high level? And along with that is a review of the governance agreement that is currently in place between the municipal partners, and that undergirds their support for the society. As well, we will be putting forward a vision, overarching goals through the master plan, and giving some tactical action items for implementation. Next slide, please. So the result of all this work and what we're shooting for is that facilities master plan, and we really want it to be visionary and forward looking over the coming decades. We want it to be very clear in terms of what's being recommended, what we're suggesting that the society pursue moving forward. And ultimately, we want it to be useful. We want it to be a tool, a planning tool, and have some frameworks in there, and potentially some other implementation information and tools that the society can use to help them implement the plan moving forward. Next slide, please. So just to quickly touch on a couple of the next steps for this project. We've completed the community engagement process, and now we're moving on to our research and analysis activities, synthesizing the engagement results and marrying that up with our research analysis, seeing how those support each other, or how there might be divergences there, and then that'll help us with our prioritization exercise in terms of what initiatives we recommend. And then we'll be in a position to develop the draft facilities master plan, which will be shared with the communities, as I mentioned before, for an opportunity for feedback. Next slide, please. Okay, so that concludes the presentation that I'm here to deliver to you folks today. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about what you just heard, or other aspects of the project if you're curious about those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maxwell. That was a very good presentation, very logical and easy to follow. So I'll just open the questions up to council. I have a number of questions, and I'll go last. So council. Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Max. We've done this deep dive at West Shore Parks and Rec, and I would encourage members of council to offer their 2 cents. I know this. I think the survey has been closed now for a bit. Has it not? Or is it still open, Max?
The survey is now closed. Yeah,
that's what I thought. But there's an opportunity for individual members of council to share by way of email some of their thoughts.
Yes, we would be very pleased to receive those. And actually, as part of this presentation package, there are 3 more slides there that contain the questions that our group has been posing to other councils in the West Shore. So yeah, if it works for you to provide written feedback to or written input to us, we'd be happy to do that. Or we could organize another session that sort of like an input digital input workshop to collect your feedback that way, whichever you prefer.
Thank you. And the feeling of the board at West Shore Parks and Rec is there's been some significant engagement, and the return rate was beyond expectations of our staff members, and they were quite pleased with the level of community engagement. So kudos to you and your team. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Casey, Councillor Day.
Thank you. I was just curious, there's a couple of initiatives that we certainly have heard about at the council table, and I just wondered if you could let me know if those have been included in what you've heard, and that is both tennis facilities and pickleball facilities.
Yes, tennis and pickleball facilities. We did hear about those through the engagement, for sure. We haven't fully synthesized all of our engagement results, so I wouldn't be able to give you a number in terms of like they ranked, first, second, third for outdoor or indoor facilities. But yes, definitely we've heard about both of those, and in particular pickleball. I mean, it's just such a growing sport, so popular in so many communities. So that's something we're going to be looking at for sure.
And the other issue is there's some pretty significant environmental areas located within West Shore Parks and Rec that are pretty near and dear to some areas of our communities for sure. And I just wonder is that taken into account when you're looking at spaces that you have to program or consider programming for?
Yeah, so through our work, we a location analysis for facilities that we're recommending isn't within scope. So what we're working on is identifying what the priorities are, and then in terms of where they're located or when they get built, that's for future planning. But that being said, we do want to identify important considerations for the community, such as what you mentioned, if there's important environmental areas. So that could be something, perhaps if those are inventoried in a plan somewhere or in a database that you might be able to share with us, we can maybe make some links to it as like a future consideration for facility development. Something like that could work.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, just my question would be, how did you measure the success of these engagement sessions in these 5 municipalities? Do you feel that you were able to gather enough information from folks? And I think my second question would be, when do you anticipate that this draft will be available for viewing?
Yeah, for sure. Just to quickly touch on the second question first. The draft will be available for viewing this coming fall. So in late September, early October, somewhere around there is where we're currently aiming for there. And then the first question, how did we measure success with our engagement process? Well, there's a number of metrics that we use. The first is quantitative. So, like the number of survey responses that we received, the number of people that we spoke to. And I was very pleased to see that our online resident survey had just about 1,500 responses, which, given the size of the region in terms of population, is quite good, because typically it's these types of surveys are responded to by like one person in the household, but on behalf of their whole household, right? So that number of survey responses is typically indicative of responses from many times that of like actual individuals living in your community. So there's the quantitative side to it. How many people were attending the in-person stations, which we were really happy with those numbers. I know the Colwood one that we hosted at the Wanda Fuca Center, it was packed. Like, we were talking with people the whole time we were there, lots of folks coming through, so that was awesome. But then there's also the qualitative side that we want to look at too. Information that goes kind of beyond just the numbers and gives us like a real sense for like the reality, the story, kind of like on the ground, what's happening in your community. And fortunately, people, it seemed to us, invested a fair bit of time and effort into their survey responses. When you look at open-ended responses, those are almost all filled out, and they seem to be pretty well considered. It's a lot more than just one sentence responses. People are really trying to give us a sense of their needs and interests and demands. And also the conversations that we had with user groups through the interview process and those pop-up stations, and the touring that we did. Really deep conversations. So it was a mix of the quantitative and the qualitative side that we used to measure our success.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. Just curious about the scope of the study is relates to West Shore Parks and Rec, which I see as the footprint of the big facility. And as the community grows, I hear that there's pickleball courts being scheduled at Dunsmuir through West Shore Parks and Rec office and so on. And we hear more and more about facilities growing and developing, so I'd maybe call them neighborhood facilities. Does that fit in the plan somehow, how this will affect it? Because I see your service delivery review, program and analysis and so on. Part of visioning.
Oh, sorry for interrupting. Was there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that along a similar lines to the question that was asked earlier in the response there with like sensitive environmental areas, we wouldn't necessarily be identifying exactly where facilities may or should go, but we want to make sure we identify and make sure that it's considered some key aspects of where facilities might want to be located in the future. And to your point around, like neighborhood service provision, that hasn't really been the modus operandi, as it were, of the society so far. The facility is really, their facility development is really focused on like the campus approach in the one area. But we have been hearing some input from other councils and user groups of maybe some more demand and interest in having some more neighborhood level facility provision. So that's something that we're going to be identifying in the plan as some of the input that we've heard, and see if it can get worked into perhaps some guiding principles or a framework for future facility development through the plan.
Yes, thank you. So you had mentioned something about looking decades out. It's difficult to look past a certain distance. I think for me, 20 years is a long way away. It's hard to know. Can you just sort of define that a little bit about how envisioning how far you look? I think you can get into trouble if you try to look too far. But is there anything more there that you could tell us about?
Yeah, no, that's a point well taken there. So the scope of this plan is to look over the next 20 years. But that being said, I really agree with your point around, things change quickly, and particularly from what we're seeing in the West Shore. I mean, you look at the growth pressures, the population increases, the changes in interests, even in recreation. There's some sports that are being played, I'm sure, in the West Shore that weren't even a factor not too long ago. So I think with that in mind, considering how dynamic the situation there is in the West Shore, I think that we're definitely going to be focusing a lot of efforts on that more like shorter term, like the next 5 or 10 years, with more like tactical recommendations, and then trying to be a bit more visionary for further out than that. But yes, we'll definitely be including a recommendation in there to continue to update the plan. I think that'll be really important, having regular updates. But hopefully we give you enough of a framework and a kind of a guiding star through that visioning process that the plan will still have legs over the next 20 years.
Great, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Grove. So I had 5 questions. So 4 of them have already been asked. Good questions, Council. So I just have one last question then. It's do you guys have a metric that looks at, I like that term you used, wants versus needs. So that's a key phrase here, because we've had a lot of associations come and talk to council and beg their case, and we're saying, well, we're having this study done. So that's your issue, actually. Did you actually engage those associations like soccer and hockey and all that? So you actually, it was a specific one-on-one with each of those associations then?
We had the online community group survey. We heard from over 38 groups throughout the West Shore, including all of the major ones. So they represent many thousands of members, which was really great. But then we have been conducting some one-on-one interviews with some of them when in cases where we maybe a little bit more information or clarification and some of the responses they provided to the survey. But really important to make sure we hear from as many groups as possible, and in particular the ones that have a very large membership.
Okay, so that's wasn't even my question yet, but perfect. That was a great answer. Thank you very much. So do you guys use, you're the experts at this. Is there like metrics or some guidelines that you use, if you have X number of population with this demographic spread, how many arenas we should have, how many swimming pools we should have, how many soccer pitches, baseball fields? Do you actually have that? Is that your intellectual property right now?
Well, it isn't our intellectual property, no. And we have we would really classify them more as like rules of thumb, because it can vary so much based on jurisdiction. So in our experience, we don't rely as much on like comparative community benchmarking or data. We really want to try to localize the recommendations as much as possible and look at as many local indicators first. When we're determining, the needs of the community. A comparative benchmarking analysis is going to be part of this project. So we will be looking at comparative communities because it is helpful information regardless, right? To see how your community is stacking up to others. But yeah, we do prefer to put a bit more emphasis on those local indicators because every community is a bit different, right? And we want to make sure it's a highly tailored solution for you.
Thanks very much, Maxwell. That was great. I don't see any other questions, and thank you very, whoops. Oh, okay, Councillor Day.
Sorry, just Councillor Grove's questions sparked something in me because your site photo that you began your presentation with actually only identifies the main site on Island Highway. But West Shore Parks and Rec does operate programs outside of that. And you did also mention that you weren't making site-specific recommendations like that the whatever goes in this particular location. So I think it's important that it's kept in mind that we do have distributed services that are currently provided, and that should be potentially a consideration for future spaces as well. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Again, thanks very much, Maxwell. Look forward to your report and further input. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Very much appreciate it.
See you later. Going on to item 7, new business. We'll start off with Josh Andrew, the head engineer, transportation master plan, community engagement, and budget amendment.
Thank you. Over here now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, today we're providing an updated community engagement strategy and budget amendment for the transportation master plan update, which is being led by our consultant, Urban Systems. Council is already familiar with the need to update the TMP, and the purpose of this report is to confirm the council's endorsement for the engagement strategy as outlined and to seek approval for a budget amendment. Establishing the full project budget now will allow us to move forward with the engagement process starting this summer and completing the TMP update next year. The engagement plan involves 2 phases of outreach running from this summer, 2025, to spring 2026, with opportunities for residents and stakeholders, neighboring communities to provide meaningful feedback through surveys, workshops, and community events. Those are all outlined in the report for your review. It also outlines some check-in points where we would come back to council and the committees to make sure everyone's informed on the progress. Staff are recommending that council approve the budget increase to $125,000, which will support both the technical analysis and the full scope of the public engagement activities. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. I'm very happy to answer any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Open the floor to council. Councillor Day.
Thank you. So it isn't quite spelled out what the additional $105,000 is going to pay for, but I think it's probably warranted in that I think that it's pretty clear we don't want to build things before they're needed. We're looking to create just-in-time infrastructure so that we're not maintaining or building things before we need them. But we also want to create a safer community and one in which, you know, speeding, for example, is not encouraged by our road designs. So can you just speak to the costs and how people will be able to have input into the plan?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Through the chair, the costs are essentially for what's outlined for the community engagement. So that's time of consultants to come and host and gather and coalesce all the information through the outlined engagement strategies. It's also for the technical, like that's probably half of it. The other half is for the technical analysis part and the update to the TMP itself, the physical document. That's not a small amount of effort that will be also included in the cost that those budget increased. How to collect collecting, you know, feedback from the community is through those ways I outlined earlier, through surveys, through public engagement, I mean physical engagement, so pop-ups, and a few of the other community events, including the engagement through to council and committees when we gather the feedback that way.
So will the public be able to see our transportation model working?
Thank you. I'm not sure what you mean by see it working. The model will be used to inform the TMP, so the document, that final document, and that document, of course, would be available to the public itself.
Well, when council was given a demonstration of the traffic model, we actually saw an animation of how the traffic is impacted by different choices. Will that be something the public will be able to see?
I'm sure we could. Oh, yes, John, would you like to chime in?
Mr. Rosenberg.
Thank you, Your Worship. The intent would be that we'd show the model during the public engagement, kind of like a visual tool. Certainly to provide an iterative process with regards to people asking questions and then inputting that data into the model would be exorbitantly expensive and exorbitantly time consuming. So we can show the model when we do the engagements for information, but with regards to the information we actually receive from the public, that will then influence and flavor the model inputs that we will use to see how that works. So we'll pick at the end of the day, once we go down a path of what looks like a likely outcome, we'll then model those outcomes and see what it looks like. But at the end of the day, we won't do an iterative process where everybody just gets to ask what they want to do, because that would be an exorbitantly expensive cost.
Thank you very
Right.
much.
So what I was looking for was a commitment to demonstrate our options to the public with the traffic models. So I think that would be key to validating what we're telling people is for people to see what those options would look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jensen?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Josh. This is a five-fold increase, 5 or 6-fold increase in the budget. So, I mean, what are we going to achieve for the extra 100K that we weren't going to get with the 20K besides some data?
Sorry, great question. The budget that was held over was actually remaining budget from the technical analysis and the model update. So that was just, the 20 grand was never meant to actually finish the TMP update. That is what we rolled over until we had numbers that we could use to amend the budget. So
Okay.
it's not just growth. This is what was.
So it's not like we're proposing a massive budget that just happened to have 20K left.
No, we wanted, well, we rolled over the money so that we could do some stuff at the beginning of this year until we could identify the actual costs.
I always like to think of this in tax increases, and that's 1% for our community, Josh. So it's not insignificant, which is why I asked. Thank you. I mean, I like the process. I mean, we go through these with other priorities and, you know, sometimes there's engagement, sometimes there isn't, but it's one of those things that we just have to do regardless. I'm a big fan of going to where the people already are. Let's not just sit here on our laurels and wait for someone to knock on your office door to tell you how crummy traffic is on their street. Let's go to where the people gather. And it doesn't really even matter if it's in Colwood, for that matter, if there's a gathering over in Station Road, you know, for the food trucks, you can have a burger and probably meet a bunch of our residents over there enjoying supper. I'd love to see a little more creativity in our engagement, I think is the point. And I think, you know, setting up a tent somewhere is great, but you know, let's get out in front of the people. And the other note I made to myself, I don't see in here a mailer. And I'm, you know, I don't know if that's planned or if something will go out with the tax bill or what have you, or the quarterly update. I'm sure there will be, but just ensuring that each door in this community is getting something to it from us in writing with a QR code or what have you. Again, about being proactive. Those are some of my comments, but I'll leave the nitty gritty to the professionals. After I already offered my comments, sorry, thanks.
Go ahead, Josh. There might not have been a question, but there is a survey that will be going out. On the survey, there'll be a QR code to Let's Talk page is actually already set up and active. Gotcha. For people to, so there'll be a QR code to that on the survey to. I think we get into a cycle though, where we put something out on our webpage and it says, go to Let's Talk Colwood and do the survey. And like, it's like a hamster wheel. Let's break the cycle, get to the doors, give them a QR code where they can go with their phone. Again, I'm not the engagement professional, but those are just some of my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks very much. My turn, I guess. Seeing no other questions. I have some questions because I'm trying to, you know, I can't see the forest, you know, through the trees right now. And I just want to make that statement. And it's because, to tell you the truth, I'm confused, Mayor, right now. Maybe you're gonna have to unconfuse me right now. So we've got a lot of great initiatives happening. So I just want to compliment you to start off with. There's a lot of great things that are happening right now. But I wasn't too sure, like after reading your report, that what the major deliverable actually is. Like it's engagement, but am I gonna finally get, you know, we've been talking about draft TMP since 2017 and draft active transportation plan. It's been draft after draft. How do we get it to the finish line? To me, it is, and I clearly, after reading this report, that this wasn't going to do this, right? I don't think. It'd be really nice to have this as an accomplishment for this council to get that past that finish line, at least a finalized TMP or a finalized active transportation plan. So, like I said, I'm trying to see, you know, because we're so down in the forest right now, we can't see the trees. I guess that's the analogy I want to use. So I guess that's the question right now is, so because we do have a lot of great things that are happening right now, but it just doesn't seem like we get there to the finish line because, you know, the last one, which had me really excited about, was we started talking about, you know, Machosen Road, 3-laner, 4-laner, 2-laner, you know, VMP, 2-laner, 4-laner, Latoria, 2-laner, 4-laner. And I thought we were going someplace with that. You know, we had the model built and, you know, to have a plan now, like to actually have a plan to say that we've accomplished this right now would be an outstanding thing, right? And same thing with some of the intersections. We talk about Carindale and VMP, light, maybe a traffic circle, maybe, I don't know, maybe probably light now. And, you know, Ocean, another one is, I don't think we never involved. We didn't have committees at that time, but we had the BC Transit presentation. I remember what they told us the solution was. And, you know, in hindsight, when you start thinking back at it, you go, oh, boy, I think we're creating some problems. But we don't seem, my point is, And it's not criticism. My point is that I don't see that overall, this is how we're going to tackle, we know that these are all the issues. And we're gonna tackle them in this order. I guess that's what's missing right now is hoping, we're not gonna get it for that kind of money, but I was hoping that's what we were gonna try to achieve. Please, Jason?
Thank you. This falls in line with what we're putting together for the operational plan, which will show the details and the scope of work so council can see when that is going to come forward. And I think the report itself talks about an April 2026 completion timeline. So this does keep us within that path. But Mayor, I believe what you're asking for is what are those detailed work plans? What are those key components that council can expect in 2025? And that's the intention behind bringing the operational plan in conjunction with the strategic plan. So both of those will be coming together. We'd hoped that we would get the operational plan done by April 30th. We've had to delay that by about a month because of strategic planning. We need to get that finished with council just to make sure that we're on the right path. And then the operational plan will show you exactly what those milestones are for 2025 and what to expect. And this program is looking to bring the TMP to conclusion by April 2026. And I'm not sure if you have anything more to add, Mr. Andrews.
Sorry, Ron, please.
I think just to give you some sense of peace, when we are done this process as part of that engagement, we will have new cross sections to be considered, which will influence the conversation we had about traffic and what that looks like. We will have projects with regards to intersections and whether there'll be roundabouts or traffic signals. We'll have timing. We have a bunch of projects in the queue. We've got DCC projects in the queue. All of those projects, all of those definite outcomes with regards to the process will all set a roadmap forward for the next 5 to 10 years with regards to what we hope to achieve and when we hope to achieve it.
Okay, thank you very much. And the only reason I'm whining about it, sorry for whining, but it's all of a sudden become that priority that just went up to the top. Like you just start to hear it in all the neighborhoods now. Like, oh, geez, gotta do something about this. But anyways, so thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Would someone like to move the staff recommendation, please? Okay, Council Grove and Council Jensen seconds. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thanks very much, Josh. 7.2, Youth Engagement Coordinator, Youth Engagement, and Downton. Or who's doing it? Ann? Yes. This is just for information only at this point in time.
Threw a curveball at staff today, so they're trying to make my wish happen. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As per this attached staff report, I'm providing an update on the work we're doing in connection with the Building Safer Communities grant. This includes program updates, next steps as we enter into the last year of grant funding, details of the evaluation process, and lastly, the development of a West Shore youth strategy. And I've left time at the end for some questions and comments. In front of you here is a brief summary of some of the quantitative data that we've gathered from our work throughout 2024. My summary today will take a bit of a different approach as I try to highlight some of the qualitative aspects of the work that we're doing. And to kick that off, if it works, I'd like to show a short video that speaks to some of the successes we've had in building partnerships and programs piloted in our community that support youth health and wellness.
This process of strengthening our youth engagement has really highlighted for us how many strong and caring partners there are serving youth in our community. And so our youth engagement coordinator has been able to really create a link and be a liaison between those groups. And we're finding that youth are benefiting from those strengthened partnerships.
It's important to have a variety of different community services and partners coming together to offer support for youth, because everybody has their own specific kind of niche and skill set. You know, whether that's physical health or background in social work, and all youth are different and need like a different kind of piece of the puzzle for all of that.
We have kids in here from as young as 4th grade coming, so 4th grade all the way to like 19-year-olds. So it helps out a lot when you, again, bring the community together.
I think this program has also allowed us to cement relationships between municipality, school, youth service providers, 3 really important groups who are working with youth and have always interacted, but this has allowed us to actually forge ways that they work together.
I think that the city doing stuff like this kind of shows that the city cares for the kids. They care for the youth within their own community and giving them an opportunity again to be around positive peer groups.
So in terms of the overarching goals, we've been establishing partnerships with youth serving organizations in the West Shore, and that process has helped us to identify where the gaps are in supporting youth in the community. And I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know we've talked about this in previous meetings. Just briefly, Public Safety Canada has a long list of risk factors that are relevant to youth that has guided us in piloting the projects that we have in the last year and a half. And some of those risk factors include a lack of positive role model, struggles with mental health, low self-esteem, lack of access to support services, and interaction with law enforcement. And while the presence of one risk factor doesn't necessarily mean a youth is going to engage in risky behavior, with an increase in risk factors equals a potential increase in a chaotic life, which can increase the likelihood that youth will engage in risky behaviors. And the flip side of that are those protective factors that we've tried to focus on and amplify, which include connection to community, connection to school, access to mentors and consistent adults, low barrier recreation, job ready skills and training, and just a general increase in confidence and sense of belonging. We've also recently engaged with a consultant who will evaluate the programs that the grant has supported, which I'll discuss later in the slideshow. And lastly, the work we've done and the work we're currently doing will help guide the development of a West Shore youth strategy, which I'll also touch on later. And again, the goal with this presentation is sharing some of the stories, successes, feedback we've received from partners, from parents, and from youth. This is a program that you're familiar with, our Chefs on the Shore program, and the feedback we receive shows this is having a strong impact on our participants. We hear that this has inspired youth to want to explore the culinary arts. We hear that not only are youth learning valuable skills, they're also connecting with peers in a low barrier environment. And the grant supports 100% of this program, including the facilitator, the supplies, the rental space. This is our most recent cohort to complete the Chefs on the Shore program. And in the back center, you'll see our Red Seal chef, Chef Tina, who leads this group. They made eggs benny that night. The week before, a request of one of the participants was to make ramen noodles from scratch, which they did. You know, these teens move around the kitchen with such confidence and such grace, making wonderful connections with each other and a space where they can be themselves. It's nice to have Councillor Grove and Councillor Day join us for this event. This was the first of its kind for this age group and the first time in Colwood. On the left is Brother Rick, elder in residence with the Sooke School District and knowledge keeper of the Cowichan Nation who resides in Chianu, Beecher Bay. On the right is John Carr, who is district principal of Natsumat Indigenous Education. It's been a long time vision of Brother Rick's to have Lahal teams at every school in the school district. And if you're not familiar with the game of Lahal, it's a game of chance played between two teams where you have to guess where the marked and unmarked bones or fake and real bones are. And it's accompanied by drumming and song. The grant supported 450 elementary school students from Colwood and Langford to come to West Shore Park and Rec for the half-day event. And in partnership with West Shore Park and Rec, we were also able to provide participants with passes to the rec center in an effort to increase youth connection to recreational opportunities. It was nice to have Councillor Olson and Grove join us for this end of season celebration for our Hockey for Youth program. Hockey for Youth is a nationwide organization that supports newcomers and equity-seeking youth to have access to play hockey. Our partners at SD62 selected the most suitable participants to play from West Shore Secondary, Belmont, and from Royal Bay. And what we learned is 100% of our participants shared this was a positive and enriching experience, allowing them to connect to peers, to build confidence, and for some of them to show up and attend school. The program is a result of numerous partners coming together, including West Shore RCMP, Sooke School District, West Shore Parks and Recreation, Hockey for Youth Organization, and Canucks for Kids. And this photo shows them some of our representatives celebrating youth that played on the Sooke and Victoria teams. And the feedback from parents showed they saw improvement in their child's mental health, in their school attendance, and in their willingness to share more about what's going on in their life. I think this picture speaks for itself, and I know with the climate it's currently happening in the West Shore. I was debating whether or not to include this photo, but I did because I think for some of our youth coming from different countries around the world and arriving in Canada, police from their home country might not tie their laces, might not teach them how to skate, might not help them get up when they've fallen. And during this program, the hallways of West Shore Park and Rec were filled with support people helping make sure that youth were successful. We had a team of 30 youth, a mix of some recently arriving to Canada, some born and raised here. Many students didn't know how to skate. Several of them had never been on the ice before. Recreation is such a powerful, impactful way to build connection to community. Kids had an opportunity to build new friendships, build resilience. These are all protective factors. And what we learned is 100% of these youth want to participate in this specific program again. 100% of them want to explore other recreational opportunities in the community as a result of this program. So connection to people, connection to places, and the more community supports means the more likelihood youth will be successful. On the left is Jillian LaRose, who is the vice principal of West Shore Secondary, both campuses. And on the right is Carly DeGroot, who is one of the 5 student advocates who work for the Sooke School District inside of the Safe Schools Department. If you're not familiar with Safe Schools, in a nutshell, it is a safety net of diverse professionals who work together to intervene as youth start to engage on a path of disengagement. And one of the many roles that the student advocates have is to explore resources in the communities in order to help rebuild that connection. So that's who we've partnered with for several of these programs. And the feedback from one of the educators at SD62 who helped us with this program said this was the most meaningful experience he's ever had in his entire education career. I've shared this photo with you before. This is 52 participants from 21 youth serving organizations in the West Shore coming together for the half-day community capacity building workshops, which was hosted by Safer Schools Together. The grant has been supporting the training and education of both youth and youth serving organizations who support youth in the West Shore. This feedback was a common theme from the 52 participants. And the other feedback, not surprising, was that we need to invest in early prevention in order to support the well-being and safety of the entire community. The presenter here for Safer Schools, whose mandate it is to work with schools and workplaces in North America, they offer through training and resources to cultivate safe environments. They also host an annual symposium on a wide range of topics around violence and best practices. And over the past 2 years, the grant has supported 8 of our community partners to attend that conference. So it allows our frontline workers in the community to have access to current information, trending issues, and to give them practical tools needed to support youth in our community. So again, under that Sooke School District Safe Schools umbrella, we've partnered with the school district's mentors and the youth on their outreach caseload in order to provide access to the facilities at West Shore Parks and Recreation, including the rink, the weight room, the indoor sports floor, the goal being to support youth connection to community in order to help reestablish some healthy habits and peer connections. Over the past 6 months, we've piloted a Friday youth drop-in at Emery Hall. One of the school district mentors that we're working with, Coral, is on the left with 2 of the youth that she supports. This provides a safe space for youth to engage with their peers, to participate in some constructive creative activities. It also allowed the youth, the students who attend the morning cohort at West Shore Secondary, to walk over after their morning cohort ended so that they could enjoy some pizza, some snacks, and some connection. And I think just generally for youth drop-in, whether it's 5 youth, whether it's 200 youth, we know what those kids are doing for those few hours that they're with us. It's very difficult to measure what doesn't happen as a result of providing these kinds of opportunities. So on the left and right, Doug Andrews, and on the right, Jamie Adair, who are from Safe Schools with us, with the Sooke School District, and the man in the middle, Joe Calandino, was invited to speak to a small group of youth. Joe's the founder of an organization called Yo Bro, Yo Girl, based out of the Lower Mainland, that focuses on prevention by offering support and guidance to young people so that they can recognize and resist some negative influences that they may be exposed to. There's programs for youth that they offer, but Joe travels around the region speaking with audiences to share his experiences about being in a gang, what it's like to lose everything, and the impact it's had on his relationships, his health, and on his life. And afterwards, it was a small group of students who were selected by Jamie and Doug to attend. And they had a very candid conversation about what they're seeing in the community, what they're being exposed to, what they're participating in. It was a very real and raw conversation about what can happen. Essentially, the message is there's no way out. So it had quite a profound impact on the kids attending. Working with the 5 student advocates throughout the Sooke School District, we developed 2 programs. This is the first of 2. So for youth not attending school, we wanted to offer a creative outlet and a sort of a soft launching pad in order to reestablish some healthy habits such as sleep hygiene, sorry. And what we learned is one of the kiddos attending this course had attended school for 3 days between the winter break and the spring break. For 3 days at middle school, but they attended every single one of these. And so the feedback we're getting is we're creating a spark, we're creating some momentum. And from a youth perspective, if you don't fit in school, if you don't feel seen at school, if you don't feel heard at school, then where else can you go? And we're trying to create a bridge into community so that you have an outlet, you have a space where you belong, have a space where you can go to where you're seen. And we're hearing about the ripple effect it's having on supporting youth, supporting the impact of youth, increased and improved mental health well-being is impacting siblings, is impacting the family unit, right? Is impacting community. So this is the second of those 2 targeted programs, partnership between ourselves, the Sooke School District and West Shore Park and Rec, and this is a spinoff of the Chefs on the Shore program. So these were youth selected by the student advocates who are not strongly not strongly connected or attending school. Space to build skills, shift some habits. This program in partnership with our youth mentors has been running since last September. Two mentors on site every Friday night for youth drop-in basketball, as well as the Friday night drop-in. And Brandon and Eddie in this picture are just so talented at supporting kids to become engaged, resolve conflict, extra set of eyes and ears. And as we've learned, they've provided this two-way positive relationship with the Sooke School District, in that because they work in the schools, they can help us identify any emerging issues, anything percolating at school, and vice versa, things that are percolating Friday night, they can support staff when youth go back to school. And then using my relationship between West Shore Park and Rec and the Sooke School District, we were able to pilot a program for a small cohort of youth attending West Shore Secondary, targeting students who want to become a lifeguard. Again, something that happened during the daytime, so we relied on our partners at the Sooke School District to select students that would be the best fit for the opportunity. And I think if anyone is feeling challenged at the idea of us running programs that happen during the school day, what I would say is I've learned there's hundreds of youth that are not attending school and haven't since the pandemic. And the other thing we've learned through feedback, one educator said to us, when you're prioritizing mental health, sometimes academics is not the most important thing. And the other comment from an educator too is that learning can take place anywhere, not just in the classroom. So brief overview of where we come and where we're going. Those first two components in the timeline are likely familiar to you. When we received the grant from Public Safety Canada, we had a strategy developed, hired someone to implement that strategy. 2025-26 will be shaped by continuing to run some of those programs that we're piloting and that I've highlighted today. We've also engaged an established local consulting company. They were chosen from a selection of 5 due to their local expertise and that they specialized in research and evaluation through a youth-focused lens. And their evaluation will work on conducting focus groups and interviews for youth, for parents, and for our partners. They'll develop an assessment tool that will evaluate the impact, the effectiveness, and the sustainability of the programs that we've piloted and that have been supported by the grant. And the results of that work will help guide the development of a West Shore youth strategy that will be ready for your consideration and input as we near the end of grant funding in the spring of 2026.
Thanks very much. That was a great presentation. I loved it. Just before I open the floor for questions, have you given this presentation to the Village Initiative yet?
I have not.
Okay, and have you made this presentation to any of the other councils yet?
You're the first.
Okay, but there is a plan to, correct? Good stuff.
Yes.
And I'll open the questions to Councillor Olsen first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No questions, really, just a comment for you, Anne. I know that there's no doubt this is really important work that you're doing. And as a parent of a teen and a preteen, like many of us in here, we know that when kids are just hanging out, and that comes up in my household all the time, is when they're most vulnerable to undesirable activities, right? So these programs and opportunities inspire the best in our kids. And I just think they're really important. I can't stress that enough. So I just wanted to thank you for this. It was very informative and I appreciate it.
Thanks very much for the comments. Councillor Day.
Thank you. Yeah, really just kudos to you for sticking with it, and you've come up with some very broad programming that reaches a lot of different corners of our community, especially ones where there isn't a lot of outreach coming to them. I did just do the Public Service Canada survey and utilize some of the things that I've learned through the work that you've done in answering that survey questionnaire as well for all of council. And it certainly echoes both my own personal experiences and that of many mentors within the school district who over the years have helped to educate myself and others at the school board and other places like the Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee to understand what youth are up against and validate some of the issues of concern that we're trying to meet with these programs. So very well done.
Thank you very much. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, that's fabulous. And thanks so much for the report. I'm really, having participated in a couple of events there, the La Hall ones absolutely blew my mind. I had no idea that game even existed. And to see hundreds of children in that facility all at once and the way it all transpired. And I got a chance to talk to Brother Rick, got some history there. There's so much to learn. There's so much to know what goes on. The kids were totally engaged. I couldn't believe it. The clearly through this, I see how all these different programs are appealing to all the children in the West Shore and maybe beyond. I don't know, but the point is, I think we need to look forward, and now is not too soon to start thinking about how we're going to afford or find the funding to continue this. And I just want to ask sort of if that's anywhere possibly part of your daily work or how you see that whole thing at all, if you're able to give some perspective on how that funding may reach out, make reference to 2026.
So portion of the 2024-25 and then again 2025-26 is allocated specifically for the evaluation process. So it's fitting, that's sort of fitting into 3 phases. One is the focus groups, interviews with students, parents, stakeholders, partners. And then the second phase is the evaluation framework, looking at those 3 specific pillars on sustainability, effectiveness, and impact. And then taking that information and building this West Shore Youth strategy. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, it helps. And I know it's difficult. I mean, 10,000 engagements within this report time is really quite remarkable. And that's 10,000 times where, as you said, they're not somewhere else just hanging out in a plaza getting bored and maybe getting into trouble and costing us a lot of money elsewhere in the system. And it seems to me that this really needs to go forward. I'm so excited. I'm just hoping that we can start working now on finding funding and shared responsibility for trying to help keep these things going. It is the shared West Shore Parks and Rec facility that you're using a great deal of. And so we've already started that with Colwood with the grant funding and sharing it. I think it's, I don't know. I just want to make sure I'm nervous. I want to see it go forward. Right. And I don't know if you have anything else to add to that. It's not a question, I know.
Thank you through the chair. And perhaps Councillor Jansen would like to speak to this too.
Okay.
Would you rather?
Councillor Jansen.
I don't want to steal any of Anne's thunder because there's lots there, but I can say that the board is having internally thinking about what that looks like the next version once the grant funding is complete, because we are sort of the premier location or venue for a lot of these activities. So most certainly we're going to be a partner. And the discussion is that unfortunately we all are going to see that in our requisition. So we'll have to understand which parts are the ones that we want to actively, maintain, and some of the others maybe that might be less successful. But can assure you that, you know, we are having those discussions, although they're preliminary at this point in time because we're still, but we're live to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to make a comment myself, and I just want to tell you, I have two words for you, Bravo Zulu. That's an old Navy term, which means fantastic, well done. And I'm cheering for you on the side. You know, it's a marked difference between when Council Grove and I went last year to when we went, what, 3 weeks ago, right? Remember that? We just surprised everybody and holy, what a difference. It was so organized and a couple of, I think it was, I can't remember their names. Eddie, I think, Eddie and Brandon, yeah. They were old football players of mine. They remembered me when I was the president of the West Shore Rebels. And but you know, they were organizing, I think, volleyball. I mean, because it was volleyball and basketball going on. So organized, so many freaking people, kids, swimmers, and it was, what a difference in a year, what has happened to the program. And smiles and you know, it wasn't people just hanging around. It was just so organized. And I was super impressed. I can tell you. I just think that you've through hard work and dedication, you've brought this a long way. And I personally would be supportive of this. And it was interesting because we were talking with a lot of talking to some of the kids there, but not only West Shore, it's West Shore, but it's Saanich. Kids from Saanich are in all over the place. And the participation was so massive. You know, the one thing that I noticed going to a lot of these events, though, do we actually invite the other councils to come? Because we're the only ones that are ever there. It's either Misty and Dave or myself and Dave. But Dave, you're constant anyways. But it's, do we invite other councils to come
And Sling Pizza.
Yeah.
I have not personally invited other
Okay.
council members, but certainly could if
They
you'd like
should
to see that.
see what's happening
Mhm.
in their own communities. That's why I think it's a great idea to do this. I was just talking with Mayor Goodmanson about this a couple of weeks ago, just after we went and visited, and he was not aware of any of this going on, you know, in his, you know, maybe Colwood, you know, the West Shore Parks Rec is not in Langford, but you know, it's a lot of his kids are there, an amazing amount. But no, I just think that is really, really important. And, you know, it's something that we couldn't foot the bill on, but I'm glad the board of directors is looking at this because that's the approach that has to come through them, and that position should be there because it's all the West Shore. So I love it, love everything that you're doing, and I, you know, can't thank you enough on behalf of this community for what you've done in the program you've created there. Just phenomenal. Very, very proud of you. Thank you. Okay, on that note, we shall move on to Sandra. You're going to talk about the 2025 Colwood Ideas Fair. Over to you, Sandra.
Thank you. A brief presentation. Thanks for this opportunity to talk about the Ideas Fair coming up this year. As you know, this is an opportunity for the city to hear from residents, give residents the opportunity to be heard and involved, to deepen the city's understanding of resident needs and expectations, to create connections between staff and citizens, to expand resident understanding of programs, projects, initiatives, to promote calls to action and encourage shifts in behavior, for example, pets in parks, active transportation opportunities, wildlife attractants, and things of that sort, to increase confidence in our local governance, and to gather input, provide a summary of what we heard, and use input to guide decisions, excuse me. So we gather data related to strategic priorities and to inform decision-making going forward. This year, we're talking about hosting the Ideas Fair on May 10th and shifting it from Royal Bay to Colwood Corners in the lease space there, thinking this is a more central location, familiar to people, easy to access, somewhere people haven't maybe been, a space they haven't been in, to check that out, and an opportunity to engage the businesses in that area while people are visiting. As you know, it's intended to be a fun and interactive opportunity for residents to get together, talk about things in interesting ways. The topics on the agenda so far are neighborhoods, so asking people what they love about their neighborhoods, what they'd like to see improved. Transportation, so the transportation master plan will be represented there. Sewer service, housing and development, parking, animal responsibilities and pets in parks, litter campaign, which we have a new community group leading that initiative, a chance to meet your doctor and learn about the Colwood Clinic, disaster resilience, which we have a project going through the climate planner, a little bit about the waterfront walkway, and that would likely just be showing the plan on the large floor map that we usually have, a cafe space, and then space for volunteer groups to be present as well. As usual, this will be communicated through many channels. We have postcards and signage ready to go, the newsletter, our website, social media, all sorts of different avenues to let people know about it. So this is just an opportunity for council to receive this overview of the Colwood Ideas Fair, and I invite questions.
Great, thank you very much. Nice and short and sweet. Thank you. Good report. Thank you, Sandra. Just so that you know, the letter that we got in was them. I think it was from Karen Woodland, and she had volunteered. Was one of the people that was talking with Dave and I, you know, maybe to have them there for something, for some purpose on the environment, and I think he was going to do it for nothing or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that was the only other thing. The only question I have, I think everything's great. It's just that the thing that I'm worried about is parking there. And it's not so much the paying of the parking, but it's the number of parking spots. Because on Saturdays now, I'm noticing that it's half empty, half full. You know what I'm saying? And there's not a lot of parking spaces there now. And if we do traditionally the numbers that we do, I just can't logistically, I just go, well, I don't think we can do it there. I just can't see how that's going to happen. Not unless people start parking down Colwood Crescent and all that stuff. So that may be the only logistical thing that you should think of. I would say, you know, it's too bad because we can criticize that everything is Royal Bay centric, but it's the only place I get lots of parking.
Thank you for that. I've spoken to our representative, Ani, and he's assured us that there will be no parking tickets, or the pay issue should not be an issue that day for sure. And I hope that it will be an opportunity for people to see that it really isn't an issue. There is underground parking at Colwood Corners. And so I hope that, again, it would be an opportunity for people to learn that there's abundant parking at Colwood Corners. Do
you know how many spots they have there?
I will ask Gabriel, my contact there, so that we can confirm and make sure. Yeah.
I know we didn't have as many at the last the Colwood Fair because they sort of, you know, we were doing things that they told us on the first one, right? So, you know, hopefully, you know, I think it was about half the number of people. The second one is the first one. The first one was well attended, I believe. But so that's my only concern. That's it. That's all I have.
Thanks for that. We'll encourage people to use active transportation to get there as well. It's always a good time.
I was waiting for you. Okay, I'll ride my e-bike down there. Councillor Olsen, please.
No, just to speak to the parking. I'm really happy to see it move there. I think there would be enough parking there, but that was going to be my question too, was the parking. So did you say that the developer said, will you be promoting it as like there will be free parking for that specific event?
Yes, exactly. I've spoken to him about that, and we'll make sure there are no parking attendants, and people will know they don't have to do any song and dance to park.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Good day to go shopping. Any other questions? That's great. Thank you very much, Sandra. I guess you're on for the next one too then. Yes.
Thank you. So quick summary of the Colwood event plan for 2025. As you know, since 2025, do we have a presentation? It doesn't. It's just pictures, so it doesn't really matter. But since 2015, the city has hosted community events to bring neighbors together, foster social connections, and celebrate and enjoy the beauty of our natural surroundings. Early on, events were hosted at the Lagoon Beach as an opportunity to meet people where they were, offer food and music, and encourage social connections and showcase the beauty of our waterfront. As events became increasingly popular and the city advanced plans to related to a waterfront stewardship plan and a new waterfront walkway, new considerations have emerged with respect to the waterfront. And council has supported a shift away from events in this location. So this year we are planning summer Saturdays. Last year we did music in the park every Friday and Saturday. This year we are proposing just Saturdays in parks around Colwood. So Colwood City Hall being one of the locations, Herm Williams Park being another, Colwood Creek Park, Lagoon West Park, sorry, this is Meadow Park in Royal Bay. Lagoon West Park is a new location that should be very popular this year with Arts and Culture Colwood's open mic nights. We'll be aligning our music in the park to follow those directly, so keep people engaged in that. We also did music in the park at Royal Bay Commons, and I think there's an opportunity to work more closely with the developer and the businesses to make it a really engaging event this time. We'll have just one of our music in the park events in this location, but really enliven it. I'm thinking of an Italian plaza, you know, with actual tables around, and we'll get PCRE and Path Developments to help us with that, I hope. Colwood Corners is another location where we use that tiny patch of grass, but people really enjoyed coming out. There's such a captive audience there with all the new apartments. So it was quite fun. And again, this year we'll make it more of sort of a sidewalk sale with all the businesses there, cross promotion for those folks. And then, of course, we have the Beachlands where we host our annual Eats and Beats event. We are in planning with Seacliff Properties and all of our event partners this year to continue this tradition. It should be even better this year now that the road is being paved and the presentation center, experience center will be open, and potentially some new park space ready for people to see. So a nice showcase this year. And then, of course, we have a whole bunch of other events throughout the year, including the Easter egg hunt, which is happening this weekend. Always very popular. Things like National Indigenous Peoples Day, which happens June 20th this year. We are on the planning committee with Royal Roads for that, and Songhees Nation. It's always fun. We'll be looking for paddlers again this year, so if anyone's interested in being a canoe, that's a really fun part of this event. Canada Day, we're working with Fort Red Hill and Fisgard Lighthouse Parks Canada staff to really energize that event, bring more promotion to it, and hopefully make it the Colwood location to be. It's such an iconic location for Canada Day. So we are working with them. And so that's a brief, quick overview of the event plan for your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Open it to questions by council. Oh, Councilor Grove.
There, I appreciate the plan and the way it's evolved over the years, and to see how it's coming. I just think every year it's better and better, and all the different separate events, different locations, it's more inclusive of the entire city. I love that part of it. And I would, if need to, move that we accept this recommendation if we need to do that to give them direction. So happy to make that motion. And I'm just, it leaves so many events to attend. I could hardly, you know, it's hard to make them all. But maybe if it's just on Saturday, you know, I don't have that much dance juice in me to do 2 nights in a row.
Thank you very much. So moved by Councilor Grove, seconder, please. Okay. Thank you, Councilor Olson. Discussion, seeing none, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
And before you go on, Mairi, I'm just going to take a 3-minute health break. Oh, don't you? All right.
You stay there. You
Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order again. We'll go to item 7.5. Mari, it's over to you. Detailed work plan and engagement plan to implement for Bill 44. Over to you.
Great, thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight I will be presenting our detailed work plan and engagement plan for the implementation of Bill 44. So at our last check-in with Council, which was on February 24th, we introduced the project and outlined the project scope. The project scope is largely just required by the province, fully mandated by the province. So the scope of work has remained unchanged since the last update from Council. The province has issued a number of manuals that's helping staff navigate through the mandated amendments. But yes, that will not be the focus of this evening as the scope has remained unchanged. But I will be going over the timeline, the final deliverables to expect, resource allocation, and present the engagement plan.
Super.
So starting with the timeline, staff remain confident that we will still complete the project by meeting the provincial deadline of the end of the year. So for us at the City of Colwood, that is December 8th, which is the last council meeting of the year. This timeline here is identifying the key milestones for the project. So this is essentially guiding the process for staff. The items identified in blue are check-ins with council, as well as a check-in with the Planning and Land Use Committee. And the items in pink are identified as communication or engagement events. So starting from the furthest left, April 14th, which is today, a council update, and then going all the way to the right, which is adoption of the amending bylaws and our new policy on December 8th. Our next check-in with council will be on August 25th. And in between that, we will have some engagement events and launching our communications information as well. And then, of course, in the fall, we will be introducing the bylaw readings, including a public hearing. So getting into deliverables, there will be a number of interim deliverables that will be presented to council, which is largely around engagement, including what we heard reports. But before you is the final deliverable. So this is essentially what we're working towards. So starting with the OCP, there will be an OCP amendment with a corresponding amending bylaw. And those will be targeted amendments that really just focus on complying with the provincial guidelines in Bill 44 for small scale and proactive planning. There will also be other minor amendments to the subdivision and servicing bylaw, as well as the off-street parking bylaw. And we will also be developing a new site infrastructure policy. Now, this is related to Bill 16, which now is allowing local governments to request road dedication at the time of building permit instead of rezoning. So this policy is going to identify criteria for when we can request road dedication. And then finally, of course, the land use bylaw. There will be some pretty major amendments to that one related to small scale multi-unit housing legislation. And we will take that opportunity to update the land use bylaw in terms of the template and the formatting of the bylaw, just to make it a lot more user-friendly and really promote consistency throughout the document, which will really help staff in the public and council understand the document better. So next is resource allocation. So we have estimated the number of hours per deliverable to complete the project. The way we did this is estimated the percentage of remaining hours of the year for each team member involved for each deliverable. So those percentages are ranging from approximately 5 to 20%. And then we have added those all up, which is almost equal to a full FTE's worth of time for the remainder of the year. Now, it's important to note the level of effort does fluctuate as we work through the process. And that really relates to those milestones shown on that timeline slide. So as we approach key milestones such as updates to council, the level of effort for team members will increase and then gradually decrease after. But given the tight timelines, team members are consistently working on this project on at least a bi-weekly, sometimes weekly basis at the moment. And then finally, the engagement plan. So that was on the council agenda. And this is a document that we're planning on using as a template for projects moving forward that involve engagement. So this is going to be a document that you're going to see more often for projects now. The template includes project goals and background, engagement objectives, lists of stakeholders, communications and engagement plan, and key messaging. The key messaging is really related to the project scope of work. And what we really want to do there is just to ensure consistency with our messaging. So we'll use that same messaging on the Let's Talk Colwood page, on our social posts. We'll use that messaging to develop engagement materials for open houses. So we're really just trying to ensure there is consistency there. For this particular project, we are aiming to do a public campaign launch in May. So that's going to be launching the Let's Talk Colwood page. We'll be having social media posts. We have committed to do piggyback on 2 Music in the Park events at Colwood Corners and Meadow Park. We are also going to be hosting an open house at City Hall as well in the fall. And then we will be sending out direct notices to all residents who are directly impacted by amendments. There will, of course, be newspaper ads as per the Local Government Act. And then, as I mentioned, we will be going to planning and land use. So that is the update this evening. As I mentioned, our next update is on August 25th. And until then, we will be doing our public campaign launch and Music in the Park events. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great presentation and great report, Mairi. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Kobayashi and members of council. This is an enactment of a provincial legislation that's affected every municipality in the province of British Columbia, more or less. And you can see here for 2025, for the remainder of the year, we're taking a 1 FTE for a provincial initiative that takes us off of what council had for your strategic priorities. So this is the classic symptom of downloading. And you can see what sort of impact that this has on an organization of our size, let alone other organizations bigger and smaller than ourselves. This has had a dramatic impact on the way that we do business. Council will also see the number of public hearings that we're not having any longer because of this new legislation, and it's not required. We have new rules of engagement when it comes to things like public hearings because of Bill 44, 45, and 47. And I just wanted to make mention to council that these are important considerations. Like when we're doing our operations plan, we do have to have some flexibility as legislation changes. We couldn't have prepared for this because we were delegated this Bill 44, 45, 47 in 2024, or actually 2023 in December. And this has impacted every municipality, including our own, which is taking us off some of the other things that we're trying to work on, which are council's strategic priorities to move forward with what this provincial legislation is. So I just wanted to give you a little context in terms of what sort of net impact this is having on our organization.
And this is exactly why I wanted the man hours or people hours, because you're going to start understanding this, the impact, because, you know, when everyone keeps their own personal logs, you're going to find that every time we ask you to do things, something has to be impacted. But now you're going to be able to tell us, you know, well, what do you want to slip? So this is the first great step as far as I'm concerned. So well done. I like what I saw, and it was an eye opener. I would have never guessed 700 people hours. And but it's just a reminder to us all, we're only human, and we start doing things from the side of our tables, our desks, nothing gets done, and we wonder why, you know, we can't hold people accountable. So well done, thank you. The one comment I do want to make about this, though, is that admittedly, back in 2023 or 2024, whenever they told us to do this, we did what we thought we were going to do, and well, I guess it wasn't good enough, and hence we got the nasty gram. So yeah, I don't know. There was supposed to be money back then too. We were supposed to have been given money. Do we still have that money set aside by any chance? That's my question.
Thank you, Mayor Kobayashi. Yes, we did receive a grant, and those grant dollars have been allocated towards a number of related initiatives, including these works as described.
I just wanted to confirm. Thank you very much. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I think one of the potential impacts of the small scale multi-unit housing could be costs to the environment, to things that we're not able to save because of it. And where that occurs, I just would like, I'm not asking for you to solve the problem that's been downloaded on us. I'm just asking you to note that to council so that when inevitably we hear from the public about how things have changed, maybe not always for the better, this is a trade-off, and I want to be sure that we can point to that. So I'm just asking for a notation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. Just sort of an observation about the small scale development on my street. I keep watching it because I've been there for 23, 24 years now. And we added a suite. We registered it. We're looking at perhaps making our garage into an ADU, and that would increase the density and it would score points because it would all be registered. But I've seen the living units on our street rise significantly. I suspect my suite is perhaps the only one that was ever registered. The rest of the growth has been basically ad hoc and unrecorded. So now with this provincial business, we're not getting credit for that. In fact, we should know that those are there so that we can say, well, we've already done 20 new units on my street alone in the past 20 years or 15 years, whatever it's been, because it is pretty close to that. There were 4 houses in 2001 with a second suite or more, like a rental. There's now 4 houses without, out of 22 houses on my street. It's a significant increase. We're not getting credit for it in terms of our count. And I just wonder if you have anything to suggest, to say, I don't even know. I'm just talking about my experience. It doesn't have a question particularly associated with it. Other than that, in a 20-year projection, an awful lot can happen that isn't recorded, and I don't know. It just seems loose to me. I don't know.
Any comments? You don't have to. You don't have to respond, actually. Noted.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. This was just for information only. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to 7.6, Marcy, council committees.
Thank you, Your Worship. So currently the city has 6 select committees. As per the community charter, council may establish and appoint select committees to consider or inquire into any matter and report its findings and its options to council. At least one member of the select committee must be a member of council. In December of 2024, council expressed the need to evaluate the current select committee structure to ensure effectiveness, specifically what matters are going to be referred to the committees by council. After review, staff recommend that council considering merging the committees with overlapping mandates of similar focus areas. A single larger committee can benefit from a broader pool of expertise and insights. Merging of the infrastructure with active transportation and the parks, trails, and recreation with environment would streamline processes, reduce redundancy, and foster collaboration. The proposed changes aim to enhance efficiency and encourage diverse perspectives and provide better support to council's decision-making process. Table 1 within the report lists specific 2025 projects, and if approved by council this evening, it will automatically refer those items to the committee for their advice prior to being presented to council. If council chooses to merge the committees with overlapping mandates, staff intend to create a draft terms of reference to be brought back to council for consideration. Staff feel that these changes will ensure a more coordinated and transparent process and will strengthen civic engagement and reinforce council's dedication to fostering meaningful collaboration and thoughtful decision-making. I'm available should you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it to council for questions. Okay. Can I get someone to move the staff recommendation then, please? Okay, thank you, Councillor Olson, and Councillor Grove seconds it, and open it for discussion. I'll just add to this right now. I do want to make this more effective. I'd like to see, and the reason for a lot of this is that I started seeing, you know, when we conduct workshops, I'd like to engage advisory committees, but sometimes it overlaps into two committees. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, you know, one to council. So it's just ridiculous, very inefficient, and it costs money. So I'm looking at this for efficacy and to be more effective. And I think it's a really good suggestion. You know, we tried and we almost had it right the first time. So now we just keep on tweaking it to where I think it's right now. So I just thought I'd add these comments. I will be supporting this motion. Councillor Grove.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me as chair of the Environment Committee. I think the last few meetings, there's not really been agenda, and it seems awkward as you speak, and we seem to double up on certain things. But I'm thinking about the committee members. Are they going to be notified in some way specifically? I think mentioned before the meeting, Marcy said something about contacting them and sending this, being sure they're aware of this information. Is that happening?
Through you, your worship. So most of our committee members are subscribed to our council agenda, so they would have seen a copy, I would assume, of this one that usually gets sent to every single one of them. But our intention now that if council does go ahead and make this decision is to come back with the terms of reference, and we can ensure that that information is provided on council direction to all committee members.
And we do know how to organize the room so we can have more
people at the table, and they can have an option or an opportunity to respond, the members, to this at some point. So they know what's going on. Cool, that's all.
Councillor Day.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a look at the when our next meetings are and what items are being referred, and I would agree that the combinations make a lot of sense in terms of getting more bang for our buck. It may be more challenging with more members in the room since everybody always has something to say, but I think that's better than making it more expensive and more time consuming. So I think we will find our way through it. There may be some tweaks and things to come in the future, but nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Thank you very much for the comment. Yeah, at CRD, I actually chair a committee of 22 people, so just to show you, it can be done. Okay, on that note, the motion's been made. No other, I don't see any of the discussion. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. And we will move on to bylaws. Marcy, could you read our bylaws, please?
Thank you, your worship. Our first bylaw that's before you tonight has a presentation as well that will be brought to you. And that was for bylaw number 2057, the land use bylaw amendment for car lot amendments. I'm just bringing up that right now.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I found myself here this evening to bring back the amendments to Colwood's land use bylaw that seek to limit the use of car lots within the city of Colwood. So as Marcy mentioned, we do have a brief presentation. I'll walk you through how we've got in here. Yeah. Okay, so the initial direction from council was to remove all the
car lots from to remove the ability to have car lots within the city of Colwood. So what that required of the bylaw was to remove all the associated uses, such as that were included on every section of the bylaw. So what we've done is we've removed all those ancillary uses and combined it into one overarching sort of automotive dealership definition, and then proceeded to ban it across the city of Colwood. At the March 10th meeting, council decided that they would like to include the existing car lots to continue to use their, to continue to enjoy the use of their car lot uninterrupted by bylaw changes. So therefore, we've made amendments to the bylaw and brought that back for your consideration. This included 8 properties, 2 of which lay mainly in the city of Langford, but do touch upon do have portions of their lot within the city of Colwood boundaries. So next one. So this is a little overview of the timeline of how we've arrived here to this evening. So in February, we brought forward the amendments that would have banned the use across the city of Colwood, prohibiting the use entirely. This was given, this amendment was given first, second, and third readings. At the March 10th council meeting, council passed a resolution to defer the adoption and bring back an amendment that would allow the uses to continue on the properties that currently have the use active on their properties. So this evening, I bring back to you the amendment, which would effectively permit this on those 8 properties and ban the use across the rest of Colwood. This map is a little hard to see for scale, but includes which lots would be permitted to have the use of car lots, which basically are the existing locations on Island Highway and then on Allendale, and then you'll see the Langford locations as well. So yeah, the recommendation is a bit of process, but I'll confirm with Marcy here, but I do believe that there's a requirement to rescind the third reading from the previous bylaw, and then give third reading to the bylaw as amended, and then on to adoption. Thank you.
It's a long one. Do we have to read that whole thing out then, the recommendation? Is that the proper procedure? Or can we just do it as presented in the recommendation? It's just a bylaw, that's why.
Right.
Councillor Day? Councillor Day?
Thank you. I move that we rescind third reading of Colwood Land Use Bylaw 151/1989, amendment number 223, and bylaw 2057/25 be given reading on February 24th. So I'm moving that we rescind that third reading.
Okay. Seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Jensen. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question on that motion. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion that first motion carries. Someone for the second, please. Okay, please. Councillor Day.
And I will move that council give third reading as amended and adoption to Colwood Land Use Bylaw number 151/1989, amendment number 233.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't think the rest of it is required.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Grove. Discussion? Seeing none, whoops, Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. One concern is that we are proceed with this, as I think I support it. But I'm concerned that the existing dealer, lot owners are satisfied with, given the number of complaints they had about insurance and assessment values, et cetera, and the threats and the frustrations they had. that they are indeed satisfied with this, that we are not doing anything to hurt their business or
That
otherwise.
is my
cover it.
understanding.
It's been dealt with
Yes.
fully and thoroughly, and I'm assured of that. That certainly makes me feel completely confident.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll call the question then. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, just on to the sewer ones, please. 8.2, go ahead, Marcy.
We
Thank you
have
very much.
bylaw number 2058, the main sewer for the LAS enlargement for 2258A Sooke Road, going for first, second, and third readings.
Counselor Jensen and Counselor Olson, please. Discussion, seeing none, any opposed, motion carries unanimous. 8.3,
Bylaw number 2059, central sewer LAS enlargement for 2258A Sooke Road, first, second, and third reading.
Jensen, Grove, discussion, seeing none, any opposed, motion carries. I shall get, could you read the motion to close the meeting? Oops, sorry, Counselor Day.
I'm just
Counselor Day.
prepared to move the motion to move in camera.
Okay, thank you very much. We're efficient tonight. And on that note, we'll kick everyone out. Good night.
Thank you.
Jensen.